Chef Dennis, are you ready to fearlessly question today?
I certainly am.
Fantastic, sir. I this has been a long time coming. I've wanted to have you on the show for a long time. I'm sure you've been thinking to yourself, man, Joey hasn't asked me to be on the show. I'm kind of upset with him. You might even have my face up on the wall throwing darts at it. I don't know what you do, but I wanted to go for this topic. I could not quite get my head around it, and I was a little afraid to bring it out there. But I'm glad that we could finally make this happen.
No, I'm fine. I know you're busy, and everybody's got kind of a plan on how things run, and it's never that you don't think about someone. It's just that you start thinking about something else, and it's just being having your mind activated at the right time and having that person in front of you that when you finally get to ask them, because there's a lot of people, and sometimes I always felt bad because I didn't know if I had asked them or if I had to go back through the archives and were they on? Were they ever on?
That's a sign you've done too many shows, Chef.
I know.
That's what that is.
Well, that's why we ended Good Day Google Plus. I'm done with that for now.
I have to ask, this is going to be the first non-fearless question. It's purely selfish. It's basically because I have a situation coming up in about 3 hours that I need your assistance with.
Sure.
Making dinner for my kids this evening. I have a sweet potato. I want to do something a little bit different. What could I do with a sweet potato?
Okay, my favorite ways to make sweet potatoes, and I've never been a big fan of sweet potatoes. Well, whipped sweet potatoes are wonderful, and your kids would probably eat them. If you put a little sugar, a little brown sugar, a little butter, some cinnamon in them, cooked them up and whipped them up, made them just like mashed potatoes. Okay, they'd probably think it was like pumpkin pie potatoes or something. Yeah. But the way I used to cook them, and I get a lot of people interested in them, is I roast sweet potatoes with apples and onions. So it's a caramelized onion, although I don't know how the kids would react to the onions. But sometimes it's a good way to get them to see that, because the onions actually get a little sweet when they caramelize.
What kind of onions?
Well, I always use Vidalias or any kind of sweet onion, white onions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use Spanish onions per me. When I buy onions, well, first of all, I'm looking for organic ones when I do buy them. And I found a lot of times you can get those at the big box stores really easy, like Sam's or Costco. Not that I advocate them all the time, but sometimes that's the best place to buy things at a savings. Cut up some onions in it big enough so they don't have a hard time picking them out if they don't want to eat them. And then just slice up, leave the skins on them if you want to, or you can peel them down, whatever you want with it, and quarter the potatoes, make them like kind of bite size, and then cut up some apples in it too. And again, peel on, peel off, whatever you like. And cinnamon, a little bit of brown sugar, put them in the oven, maybe 375, 400 degrees, or you can cover them if they start to get too much color and just let them roast for a while. So that's how I like to serve sweet potatoes.
I can do everything except I don't have a white onion in the house right now.
Okay. Well, you can leave the onion out.
I might leave the onion. They have a pretty they do a lot of seasoning, a lot of flavors. We're Italian, so I mean they're not afraid of some basil and some oregano.
Well, you can season it anyway. I like the combination of the two because the sweet potato seems to pair really well. You could throw some raisins in it too. Nuts.
I'm gonna have to make that. I'm gonna have to take you up on that. I'll let you know how it turns out.
Walnuts. You can make it into like a little bit of
pecans. I had pecans. I don't have walnuts.
Great, yeah.
All right.
But I mean, you can make it into a little bit of a special thing. It's almost going to seem like it's a dessert, but you're still getting fruit and vegetables into them. Nuts are
about 30 minutes, 40 minutes roasting.
Yeah, and just watch it. You don't want them getting dark. And sweet potatoes will kind of get soft before they really fully roast. Like a white potato kind of gets dark and roast and crunchy and delicious. Sweet potatoes just kind of start to turn to mush after a while. So just watch that they don't go too long. You want to be soft, and the apples won't take that long either. So even 350 instead of high heat, and 20 to 30 minutes should be good.
All right. Well, that'll end fearlessly questioning serving my kids dinner, and we'll actually get on with the real show. Chef, why don't you go ahead and catch everybody up a little bit? Tell everybody your story as it relates to fearlessly questioning what comes your way.
Fearlessly questioning what comes my way. Well, I find that as I try too hard, nothing ever seems to happen the way I want things to happen. And I found that by just doing what I do, enjoying what I do, and being happy, that all of a sudden doors start to open. All of a sudden people notice me. And I think sometimes it's because I'm happy. Nobody wants to notice someone who's like really edgy all the time or really looking for something all the time, because you get that feeling when you're around those people that like they just want something. But if you're there going, yeah, how you doing? Life is good. I'm loving Florida. The weather's nice. It's sunny outside. I talk to my friends. I write my blog. I cook food. I'm having a good time. How are you? You know, and all of a sudden, oh, I have a friend who's looking for this. Would you like? Sure. Let me talk to him. Things all of a sudden, because you're changing attitude, because you're changing in looking for something, looking for whatever you're looking for. My wife walked into my life when I stopped looking for someone to spend my life with. It just seems like the harder you try sometimes, the harder it is to achieve your results. So if you tend to take what comes your way and make something good out of it, you not only feel good about yourself for doing that, but people tend to notice how you react to things.
Well, hopefully you can get through this next 30 minutes, because I don't feel like I'm that happy-lucky go person. So hopefully this isn't too bad for you, Chef. But I don't want anything, though. At least I'll ask for you. I'll ask for it after the show. But in all seriousness, though, the thing that I have to say is that goes against most of popular belief is you got to put in the hard work and you got to do the work. And is it so? Then I guess my question would be, is it that we're just picking the wrong things then?
I think it might be sometimes. I'm a believer in, if you do what you love, you'll always love what you do. Okay. And, there's days I don't want to go to work, though everybody has them. There's days I hated being me. But for the most part, I enjoyed what I did throughout most of my life. I love to cook. I love to make people happy with food. So that always made my life a little bit easier than the drudge of someone who, was working just because of the paycheck, because that was the most they could make doing what they did. Sometimes it's more than just about money. It's always about money. I'm not fooling myself or anybody else. Everybody needs to make enough to live and to be comfortable. But sometimes we put too much emphasis on that. And because of that, we're driving ourselves in a direction that's unnatural. We're driving ourselves in a direction, we're almost setting ourselves up to fail, because when something goes wrong, it's catastrophic.
And so take me back. How far back does this go? Because I mean, I'm picking this vibe up from you from about the time that I came and encountered to your existence, and this was 2-3 years ago. A lot of it involving Google Plus and your fortune there. Does it go back even further?
Well, I think it's like anything else. I wish I could say it did, but life tends to beat you down to a point where sometimes you either accept the beatings, you submit, or you change your life. And I think a lot of it had to do with my changing my life, and putting it in a different direction. Had I stayed a restaurant chef, I would probably still be unhappy. I'd be successful and unhappy. Or eventually that unhappiness is going to make you unsuccessful, because it goes through to your food. People can tell when you're not happy. Uh, I was very happy as a restaurant chef for a while. Then I just was in a situation that made it just unbearable for me. Uh, so as my changed my life, and a lot of it had to do again with meeting my wife. She made a great living and allowed me to step back, and also didn't want me working those kind of hours. So I went into a different type of food. Food is my life. So that's what I do. That kind of defines who I am. And I went into a different type of job. And then from that, I finally stepped into the school, which really kind of redefined me, renewed me, sent me in a new direction. That's when I became a blogger. That's when I started social media. That's when I really drank the Kool-Aid and figured out who I was and what I could really do. And it wasn't just what I did in the kitchen. It was everything else that I did that kind of completed the picture. Joey, I'm not seeing you. Are you there? Are you there?
I'm back, Chef.
Okay.
The show is. I apologize. I don't know if I heard everything that you said, but your show has been a little cursed today. A little cursed. A little cursed. But Google exorcisms aside, I don't know where exactly I stopped hearing you or you stopped hearing me. Um, you were on a roll there.
Yeah.
Back to the last thing I heard was starting teaching at the school and then getting into blogging and social media.
Yeah, that kind of redefined who I was, and that kind of made the change for me, changed my directions and my approach to things, and really started me thinking about other things and just staying in the kitchen for the rest of my life.
And so now, I mean, tell me about that because that appears to me, like again, you just like you said, started teaching, you started blogging, and then all of a sudden, like you're just this dude on Google Plus, right? Like that did that catch you completely off guard?
Oh, completely off guard. Although I embraced Google Plus, and I think we were all expecting it to go further than it has. That Google Plus just it's been kicked so many times by so many people that it's not really ever recovered from it. But they keep saying we're dead, and you can only use the paddles on somebody so many times. And all the marketers and journalists that keep saying Google is dead or is useless. It's finally taken its toll on it. But it did push me into the forefront, and it did open a lot of doors, and it did introduce me to some very influential people people all over the world that I'd have never met. And that kind of changed my whole outlook on things too.
And so and again, it seems like you said, they might be winning that war, unfortunately. Good Day Google Plus, I think I want to use that as a pretty good example. So that was, I guess, an incarnation of you kind of going with that flow, right? And now it's almost come full circle to where you said you've stopped doing it. I mean, kind of take me through that. I feel like because that was the thing that I was looking to you at and saying, listen, here's somebody that is running with this opportunity, and now you're running into more opportunities. What's it like to know when to just kind of get in or get out, I guess?
Well, it's like anything else when things. And I've had this discussion with Mia Voss all the time because the two of us are like two of the longest running shows on Google. And it was when it stopped being fun, when it started being, because it was a lot of work, but when it just started being too much work for not enough fun, that was the time to stop it. And it really had gotten to the point where it was just getting to be too difficult. Rather than have the same people on all the time and be boring and be bored myself and bore my viewers. It just got to a point where it had run its course. It was done, and it was time to move on to a new venture. And I am already planning that. I spent a nice weekend on the beach and thought about ways to resurrect the show or to come up with something new. So I have a new show in mind already, and probably be starting that in September. About the same time I started Good Day Google Plus 2 years ago. And we did 80 shows of that. So that was pretty cool.
And I think there's this thing, again, coming back to the, what comes your way. We want to have a certain fixation on things. Like we want them to always be constant, and we're afraid to let go. So again, taking the Google example, where Google is very good at cutting bait on things, and it might even be Google Plus at some point. It seems like we are afraid to do that, and part of that is not being able to see these things that we're not necessarily looking for. What is your kind of secret to seeing them repeatedly?
I don't know if I use any special technique to seeing things. It's just I feel it. It's just a gut feeling, and I think a lot of times we're just afraid to go with our gut. And more times than not, I think you really know what's right and what isn't right. And you just have to have the confidence in yourself to go with it. I mean, every now and then you're going to be wrong and you're going to fail. But I mean, I think most times when you know something is good or something is over, it's over. It's usually when like the restaurant I worked in, the last 2 years were a mistake. The school I worked at, the last 2 years were a mistake. Okay. I knew it was over, but I was comfortable. And the worst thing we do as people is we get comfortable, and we get sedentary and we hate change. So we're reluctant to stop something that isn't working, or to find a way to fix it, even because we're comfortable, and to move on to something else. So
I don't know if this question is necessarily fair or not, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Since a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is essentially free money, meaning that you weren't looking for it, it's just kind of a bonus. It's there. But do you feel that you've done enough with what's come your way?
I think I could do more. I think if I was younger, I would do a lot more. If I wasn't kind of at the end of my, not that I'm dying or I'm old or anything like that. I am old enough, though, to not feel the need to drive myself to the extent I would if I was younger. And again, it's all relative, or is it all fair? If I was younger, would I have had the personality and the demeanor that would have gotten me to this point? We don't know. People are saying, "Oh, you should be on the Food Network. You should do this." I says, first of all, I'm too old. I'm not pretty enough. They want somebody out there that's really going to be young and energetic, and the cameras can have fun with. I says, and I don't have the patience. They'd say something to me, and I go, they'd be bleeping me out all the time. You don't talk to me like that.
Well, that kind of goes, completely against the grain of this entire conversation, though, would it not? Is trying to force your way into those things that necessarily you're not a fit for.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me wants to just vehemently disagree with you and say you've just got to bull your way through. But I mean, I don't know though, because again, like let's say I can't remember exactly. You said how old you are. You've crossed the 60 threshold, I believe.
Yeah, I'm 60. I'll be 62 in September.
So yeah, so we're about 30 years apart, right? Okay, so it's like I think like I probably would be saying the exact same things that you are saying. Like I feel like if I was you, if I could fast forward, I think I'd be saying the same things. But should I be saying those things now, though? I guess is the question that how much does age play a factor into this? I guess is the question, is because we're at that point where we are trying, we're pushing, but yet we need to take a minute and look to learn from the people that have already been there, done that. And should I be asking or doing the things that you're already doing and maybe give myself that much of a head start?
I think that's a very difficult lesson to learn. It's just like our parents try to teach us from their experience. And, when we're 18, we don't think our father knows anything. As we get older, and we're in our 20s, we realize the wisdom of a lot of things he said. It's like once we find, when the shoe's on the other foot, we start to see. But it's just, life has just got a way of making us not always believe it. And that's a good thing, because when we don't believe that we can't do something, we come up with some really great stuff. Okay. But it's understanding where that line is, where, maybe you want to push in a different direction than beat your head against the wall all the time trying to achieve something. As a younger man with a family and with responsibility, you need to be successful. You need to drive yourself, because it's something that's important to you to provide for your family. And that's what a lot of us are in that position really fuels what we want to do. Plus, we want to be successful. We want to have a legacy. We want to be happy. So now the trick is finding something that you can do that at that doesn't feel like work every day.
I'm going to leave it right there for a minute, although I'm getting mixed feelings from you, Chef. I'm going to have to come back to that. But it is, we're going to take a break in the action really quickly. Your turn to turn the tables on everybody. We'll let you take a breather for a second. I want you to go ahead and ask the audience a fearless question of your own, something you've always wanted to know the answer to, but we're a little unsure of the response. Have at it.
The question I guess I would ask the audience is, that's something I hadn't thought of. I would ask the audience to ask themselves what they would really like to do to be happy. And that's something I generally won't go up to someone and say, you're an electrician. What would you really like to be?
It's an uncomfortable question, right? Because I mean, you're basically telling them that what you're doing now sucks, right?
Not that it sucks. It's just.
I mean, that's the very subtle backhanded implication, is it not?
It's that
you're better than that.
You're better. You're not happy. You can be.
Give me a little bit. Give me a little bit, Chef.
You're better than that. It's just that there's something inside of you that would really be, you'd be really good at, and you'd be happy doing. What is it?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the question is, it's we're almost afraid to answer that one because we don't know. We're afraid of what we'd have to do to one get there, and then it's also the fear of success too, right? Because once you actually kind of start walking that path, we also want to sabotage ourselves from getting there, even when we do kind of make that
Oh yeah.
realization.
Well, nobody wants to walk away from money they're already making to try something that they're unsure of that they might fail at.
I've been pretty good at that in my early career. That's definitely I've done that once or twice. But
I
that's
think we all have. It's just a matter of once you get settled and you're in your 30s, especially. That's when it's like the changes are done basically at that point. When you're in your 20s, you can still afford to change jobs without taking too much of a hit. But when you get to 30s, you get to the mid 30s, you start to get below 40. You're getting higher in your pay grade at whatever you're doing. And then to let that go, to start over again and maybe make about half of what you're making, to start all over again. Yeah, that's
so. I mean, so I want to get to the bottom of this kind of contradiction we have forming here, and it seems like there's an age divide, and I want to say that I don't know if I believe you, Chef, and that I feel like if it's going to work for you when you're 62, it's going to work for you when you're 31. I just making that distinction on kind of like you said, you have to have a little bit more of urgency, I guess, maybe with youth,
yeah.
right? But at the same time, you have to maybe have the wisdom to say, or the perception and awareness to say that maybe I need to pull back a little bit and just see what comes or what happens, or not be so
Mhm.
engulfed in whatever it is that they're engulfed. Am I making? I mean, what is 31-year-old Chef Dennis saying at this point? What are you doing at 31?
At 31, I'm looking for more vodka.
All right.
uh, no, at 31, I got the world by the tail, and I'm riding it for all it's worth. I got my spurs on. I'm digging into the side, and I'm having a hell of a time without any fear of consequences. And that's basically 31. That's where as you start to get older, then you start to fear the consequences a little bit. And I think that's what mellows us out or tempers how we approach life. So it's not bad to have a lack of fear, but you need to have that lack of fear with a little bit more respect for your own self and for your body and everything. I put myself through hell, not just in work, but in sports. I beat myself up thinking, I'll rest when I'm dead. It's that kind of that Mick Jagger's, or not Mick Jagger, the Who, I hope I die before I get old kind of philosophy.
Yeah, that didn't happen to them, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I know we were just talking about it. And then as you get that age there, you go, oh crap. If I had known I was going to live this long, I might have taken a little bit better care of myself.
See, that's the thing. I've never had that mentality, which is, I don't know if I'm just internally broken in that way. I've always kind of had an eye down the road of saying, like, I think this might be something I'll regret later. But then I think that also prevents me from maybe, like I said, maybe taking that extra step or that leap or going to that extra mile to get to where I need to go. So it's about finding that. I think that nuance there's somewhere in there. I think what I would like to do is if we could close that 30-year gap somehow and say, how do we take 31-year-old chefs, vigor and recklessness to a certain degree, and marry it with the, that approach of, well, I'm just gonna, be nice and be happy and smile, and people are gonna respond to that.
Well, I think there is a new avenue to get to that point, and it's all about being happy. It's all about discovering yourself and really knowing what you're good at and really being happy at it. And for chefs, I mean, we've all got a creative edge. We've all got this need to be loved. We've all got this little bit of a need to be worshipped. It's just who we are. It's what we do. But we give it right back. We give a lot of love back. We give a lot of nurturing back in our food and how we treat people with our food. But it's always like, I want to feel like Sally feels sometimes, and they like me, they really like me, but it's getting people to notice you. That's the hard part, and getting things. So now this new social media thing but I mean, social media is really where people need to be seen. If they're happy doing what they're doing, no matter what it is, social media is now the key to sharing that with the world and with getting more people involved in what you do. Because honestly, when more people get involved in what you do, and you're getting accolades, you're making new friends, or you're taking it to different levels, you're going to get increasingly happy with what you do. And you're going to find that it's going to take a lot less, although social media will, eat up a good portion of your time, it's going to take a lot less work in other directions to get you to that point. And that's when you start meeting people that open doors. And that start getting people where things kind of just start falling in your lap.
So this happiness you speak of, there's two things that I find fascinating that, from the different things that I've heard people say, that you can do two things to really greatly improve that. I mean, one, just kind of your general outlook in life outside of that, but you can, change the people that are around you, and you can change actually physically where you're at. You've done, I know, at least one of those, moving from Philadelphia to Florida, which seems to have had a pretty big impact. Have you done the second? And I mean, talk about the other one too. Is that playing as big of a factor as people say it does?
Well, actually getting out of the rut with the people, it's not even so much meeting new people or getting rid of your old friends. It's just really getting them used to the new you. I mean, people will leave just because it's what happens. You fall apart, you grow, just like we always talk about growing apart. People grow apart. And that's actually what's going to happen. It's not that you're going to push them aside. It's just that your goals, your things that make you happy are going to change, and they're not always going to be included in them because they're no longer part of what makes, it's not they're not part of what makes you happy. It doesn't make them happy. They don't understand the change in you. So I moved to Florida, and honestly, at that point, I got like 2 or 3 friends, period. That's about it before we moved. Any other friends I had were virtual online. So when I moved, I packed up most of my friends with me and took them to Florida, on the computer. When we got here, I finally started meeting, and plus I also had time for the first time in my life. I started meeting people live and started enjoying the interaction and met more people, and people introduced me to other people. And it was like, you just start to broaden your circle, just like we broaden our network on social media. And, each one, you don't ever go into a relationship wondering, well, what can they do for me? It's like, but you're genuinely happy, you're interested, you listen, you talk to them about what you do, you talk about what you might like to do, you talk about what you could do together, or you just go sit down and eat and shoot the breeze and have a good day. But then in the back of their mind, it's like, I like working with them. I'd really like to do something. I wonder what we could do. And then someone else will say something to them, and, oh, I got somebody that you might like to meet. That's my connections in Florida have all come because it's like, I got someone you'd like to meet. I've heard that so many times, and I've had the right person introduce me to people, and we just have a good time. We hang out. And I love when they say, oh, you're just as nice as you seem on the internet. I'm like, well, good. Thank you.
This will be one of the last fearless questions for you as we begin to wrap up here. I think you hit on something that I'm personally fond of, and that's collaboration. But yet there's this hesitation with it to where I think we're afraid of the rejection maybe, or that person not accepting our contributions to that collaboration if we're good enough to collaborate. But I think that's where ultimately, why are we not just mixing it up and trying just even little tiny things with more people more often, I guess, is we always want to kind of hoard things and keep them to ourselves and not let others in.
Well, I think the key to successful collaboration is knowing the person well enough to talk to them about it. And that doesn't mean like I met you once at a party and I know that you have 12 stores all over the world, in the county, and I want you to put my product in all 12. So the first thing you ask a person should not be a favor or to do something for you. Okay. So you need to work to that point. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people, even with social media, a lot of people use it, and I'm as guilty of it every now and then. If I wanted somebody to be on my show, that was about the most I ever asked them, not to promote me or do anything like that. But you'd be amazed at how many emails I get or how many pings I get with I'm doing this, would you share it with your friends for me? And I'm like, who are you again?
That's important.
Have you ever sent me a message before? you know. And it's just like people don't seem to have boundaries or understand that. They just think, you know, you've got an audience, and I do help a lot of people, and I have no problem with helping people, but I like to have relationships with people that I help.
Well, I'm gonna make this a little quick comment, and I work with. When I'm not doing this, I sell health insurance for my family's agency, and I work with and know a lot of insurance agents, and this is business in general. This isn't just insurance, but I feel like we're exceptionally guilty of this. But we always want to assume that everybody cares so much about what we're doing, right? And as businesses, I think we're conditioned to it just with the advertising messages and the communication that's thrown at us. I think that's maybe a byproduct partially, is that just that's how we're being talked to. So we just kind of reflect that back in some aspects. I don't know if that makes sense truly, but I always, I was doing a webinar with a couple insurance agents, and they said, "Oh, we're ready to launch a new website. Should I send something out like telling our clients and everybody about this great new website?" I mean, I doubt they'll care, but go for it. It's like if your lawyer sent you an email, said, "Hey, come check my website out," would you care? Probably not. It's just
Right.
the same. It's like figuring, like you said, the intention behind it. What is in it for that other person, and that's where I think you're going to have that secret. I don't know that there's a question in there, but that's just definitely one of my biggest. I would punch you in the face if I see you making these mistakes, sort of things.
Well, that's the whole thing. The key in collaboration, though, it's got to be something that's good for both of you, not just good for one of you. Unless you're talking to a philanthropist who just likes to, help other people. But I mean, it's the philosophy I've always had in life, is that it's got to be good for me. It's got to be good for them. If it's not good for both of us, then it's not. It's generally not good, unless I'm just making a donation to something. Then that's a whole other thing. And every now and then I'll do that just because it's good for my friend. And I'm not necessarily looking for something to come back to me. And honestly, those are the times when something does come back to you. It's funny. Like when you do something just purely selfless and you're doing it to be nice, to help someone, a lot of times something, it's kind of karma like, I don't know, something comes back to you just because you were so nice.
Chef, my final fearless question to you is, what's not coming your way that you kind of wish would?
Ugh. An invitation to the Ellen DeGeneres show.
Well, I don't know if I can help with that. I've talked to Ellen once or twice before, but I don't know that I can help you
That's
getting on her show.
it's other than that. I'm pretty happy camper with what I'm at. But opportunities, I would like to do more travel blogging, and I'm just starting to get into that. But I would like to go to Europe and do some travel blogging. So that's the only other opportunity I'm looking for.
So you can just basically not say another word about it from now, and then it'll happen in a couple months, right? That's how it'll work. So that should be the recipe.
Well, I've talked to a few people, and I plant the seed, but I don't push it. If I go, I go, and if someone wants me to do something while I'm there, I do it. If not, I'm just going to go anyway and have a good time. But
Well, Chef, I appreciate you taking the time. It's been a pleasure, and a long overdue pleasure, as much as any. Where can people maybe check you out, maybe not check you out, maybe not ask you to do stuff? Where is the best place to do that?
well, I'm Ask Chef Dennis on just about every social media. Um, Used to be, I still am on YouTube, but only I'm a naughty boy on YouTube. They put me in the corner, so I have Ask Chef Dennis Productions now, which is my new YouTube channel. And also, I have a conference coming up, which starts on the Friday the 12th, bloggers conference, and it runs the 13th and the 14th, 6 sessions on each of those days with all kinds of topics for bloggers. It's free. You can come in your pajamas. You don't need a hotel reservation, an airline ticket, or any other expenses. You can just sit and enjoy all the wonderfully talented people from around the world talking about things they're passionate about in blogging. And other than that, I'm just hanging out on the web most of the time, or my blog, AskChefDennis.com.
Chef, I really appreciate it, of course, and hopefully we can connect down the road again. But if you want to hear the fearless question Chef is most afraid to ask himself, we can head over to fearlesslyquestioning.com to get that. And of course, with all of the other guests that we have had on the show, we're going to get out of here. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy, everybody.